I've been asked, we have a microphone for those who want to ask questions here at Independence Reformed Bible Church. We do allow questions of the pastor or of the whoever it was that spoke. And so we ask, and we urge you to ask any questions or make any comments if you would like to know more or just would like to add to it. We do ask, apparently the microphone doesn't pick up distance. So you gotta be right up, be right there and speak into it. So who has the first question or comment? Two comments, both from us kids in these better.
Why does the New Testament refer to Lot as righteous Lot?
I knew second. You know, the New Testament actually says that, and this is intriguing to me. Peter says that it vexed his righteous soul. Good King James word there, vexed him. Good word. It appears as if Abraham's faith was extremely private. It looks like, and when we see what happened in Genesis 19, that he says, hey, my brother, don't do so wickedly, that this was like news to them. So it certainly looks like, yeah, he did believe in God, and we see that a little bit. I think he recognized who these men were. There in the beginning of Genesis 19, when Lot saw them, he rose to meet them, and he bowed himself to them. His initial response to these men, I believe it was God, was the same as Abraham's, if you will. So he knew God, apparently was known by God, but that's as far as it went. And we look at that, it's tough. Because if it wouldn't be for that statement by Peter in the New Testament, we'd have every reason to doubt it. John Calvin makes the observation that Lot did witness to these people. I don't really see that. I see Lot as more being bothered by them, but hey, this is what you gotta do. I gotta have my relationships, I gotta do business with these people, and I don't want to offend anybody here. So let's just keep my mouth shut. And he didn't offend anybody until it really counted. Then he really offended them, and then they wouldn't kill him. The relationships didn't get them too much. Wes, did you have a...
Yeah. I had a question about that situation at Lot's house. Did all these people that, all the men of Sodom said they came from every corner?
Yeah.
Like, was there something spiritual going on? Like, did these people know who these men were? Like, was Satan involved in that? Did Satan know? Like, like, why would they come from, like, the whole city came and surrounded Lot's house? I don't know. I heard it was a small city. I don't know.
Some people believe it was somewhat small because what Abraham was able to do with this contingent of commandos and bring everybody back. It's hard to tell how big it was. I'm going to read that verse again because it's a very sweeping verse. It uses a lot of superlatives. Now, before they lay down, the men of the city, the men of Sodom, both old and young, all the people from every quarter surrounded the house. So this wasn't just at the front door. This is surrounding the house. But it's very, very broad statements. The men of both old and young, all the people from every quarter. I think there was something spiritual going on there. I think it was known that these were not ordinary men here. And I think, and I can't prove this, I think these wicked people had some idea of who they were. And I think they wanted to destroy them. You remember, he offered his daughters and they were not interested at all. And in a sense, they would have let Lot alone, I think. They just wanted to destroy these two people. So I think there was something spiritual going on here. And really, Lot would have found himself in this situation if he would have spoke up earlier. Because he'd have been thrown out of that city a long time ago if he would have spoken up. Poor Lot. No influence. None. Well, I mean, these guys are surrounding the house, I'm sure he knew them. I have no doubt that he knew an awful lot of those people out there. But when it came down to it, he was not a man of faith. They had no influence. When it really, really counted. The guy with the influence, that was crazy Uncle Abraham. The man believing God. The man exercising faith in God. It's amazing. Amazing thing. Another question. Yes, Tim.
When you're talking, I couldn't help but thinking of Psalm chapter 1, first 3 verses, because it's kind of a parallel. It says, "Blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the wicked, nor stands in the way of sinners, nor sits in the seat of scoffers. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and on his law he meditates day and night. He is a tree planted by streams of water that yields its fruit in its season, and its leaves do not wither."
Thank you. That's exactly what happened with Lot, wasn't it? It says ungodly, I mean, Lot just kind of went by the boards. Abraham, though, he was like a tree planted by the rivers of water. And, Lot, he definitely did walk in the counsel of the ungodly. He definitely did stand in the way of sinners. He definitely sat in the seat of the mockers. Definitely did all of that. And Lot is kind of like a byword, unfortunately. Praise God that God saved him. But when we talk about Lot, he's kind of like just one big bad example. Just one big wrong way to go. Just mockers didn't mind about. Seem to be pretty at home there. Who has the next question? Yes.
I have a comment on Abraham and on Lot both, but on Abraham, where it says in, I think it's verse 19, it says, "For I know him that he will command his children and his household after him." And when it says his household is after him, I was reminded of the verse that talks about he being dead yet speaketh. And it was referring to Abel and his sacrifice. And I thought, Abel came with a right heart, Cain came with a hard attitude that was not pleasing to the Lord. And you've got Cain and Abel, and you've got Abraham and Lot. You have almost the same parallel there. And today we have Abraham, and he being dead yet speaketh. And we're following what he showed. And in relation to Lot, I was thinking, the women's lib movement came about, I think, and this is just my personal opinion, but for the fact that women have been thrown into the culture. And we're today throwing our women into the culture, our daughters into the culture, particularly by putting them into public school. And that just concerns me greatly. And I think, we are doing everything we can in the home, and we're doing what is right by them, and yet we throw them out the door. And it's when they're going out the door into the culture that we're doing just what Lot did with his 2 daughters.
Yeah.
That's my thoughts.
Sure. You're either influence or you will do the influencing, one or the other. Public education. What do you think's happening? I mean, we hear all about the mission work, we're going to do right, we're going to convert public education. Like any day now, we'll be worshiping Christ in the next assembly. Well, there's influence going on. And there's mission work going on in the public schools. And there's conversion going on. Is there not? Sure enough it is. I just saw it again last night. Last night I was looking at the internet, and sure enough, someone else saying it. 80% of children from Christian families will leave the faith. That doesn't even shock us anymore. We're used to that one. Would have shocked Abraham. Who said Abraham? Abraham, there's an 80% chance your son will not keep the covenant. There's an 80% chance, Abe, that he's going to drift off and not care. I think it would have shocked Abraham. Yes.
Do you think that's a good?
We have the mic.
Do you really think that's accurate? That 80%? That sounds very high. Like, I mean, with homeschool families, how is that? What's Christian? What is a Christian home?
Well, first of all, homeschool is no guarantee. That's the first thing. I know of an awful lot of homeschool situations where dad's just not involved. Dad is not doing what Abraham's doing here. It's not working out too well. I know too many situations like that. I questioned that when I first heard it. When I first heard that number a few years ago, it was 70 to 80%. Now I'm hearing more 80% in what I'm looking at. Is that number high? Well, you're talking about professing Christian homes. Who knows where these homes are all the way. And what that's talking about is the culture at large, if you will. That's what that's talking about. So there's all kinds of homes that are called Christian, and kids are they're just out of Dodge. They just are. And seeing that it happens in junior high school, college, just way too late. You know, I had a conversation with a pastor one time. Actually, it wasn't a pastor, it was an elder in the church. We were talking about this. I said, you know, I get it that not every family can homeschool. I get it. That's not the most prestigious thing to do, right? I mean, my poor wife, all those kids. And of course we had to have this large Ford van, which was a diesel van. So it made all this noise. You know, and there's a lady with 9 kids and homeschooling. You know, to think she got invited to a lot of garden parties. Not hardly. I mean, it's not prestigious, if you will. And I said to him, I said, so I get it. I said, Christian education is expensive. It costs a lot of money to send your child to a Christian school. You can knock down in some schools $5,000 a year per child, and that's on the low end. That's cheap. It costs. I said, so I don't want to throw out a formula here. I said, but if my spiritual leadership cannot recognize the danger of what we call public education, where God is mocked, and we just heard, frankly, a good description of public education from Psalm 1. Standing in the way of sinners, sitting in the seat of the mockers. In case you don't know, the Bible and Christ are mocked. Not all day, every day. But if you want to find out what they really want to teach people, look at the minutes from the National Education Association conventions. They are out to destroy Christianity. They say it in their conventions. You can read it. It's no hidden agenda. Not a hidden agenda with public education anymore. Maybe at one time. It's not hidden anymore. It's right out there. Anybody can see it. And I said to this elder, I said, if my spiritual leadership can't see the danger of that, then I truly can't see that they're protecting me. After all, the spiritual leadership is supposed to protect the sheep, right? And you can't see that? Wow. You know, the conversion is happening. All throughout our culture, not just public education. The conversion is happening throughout our culture. And we are the ones being converted to Sodom and Gomorrah. And dads, we got to go to war. We got to go to war. And I don't even need to talk about the internet. And dads, if you have sons, what comes right into your home on that internet that will destroy your children. Destroy them. It's warfare time. No doubt. One more question or comment.
Joel, where do you put the sovereignty of God in this? We certainly are called to preach and to exhort. We seem to be under judgment in this country, and our churches are not teaching. Our schools are indeed converting. But this is all being done under God's ordaining. So, you know, how do we address that, and what do we take from that?
Yeah, where is God in all this? It almost sounds like it's up to us. Well, first of all, when we talk about God's sovereignty, to me, this is a huge lesson here. God's not rolling the dice in heaven, and oh boy, lucky for us, Abraham wants to do the right thing. We know that God raises up a generation. And the fact that there is even a voice against the culture is, I think, an act of God's sovereignty. I absolutely believe that. God raised up people today just like he raised up people like Jeremiah. And it's very clear that God raised up Jeremiah, and Jeremiah didn't even want the job, as Ezekiel didn't even want the job either. Isaiah did volunteer, but Jeremiah and Ezekiel appeared not to have volunteered for the job, they just got picked. So the fact that there's even a voice, I believe, is a demonstration of the sovereignty of God. The adage, almost cliche, it's attributed to George Washington. I don't know if he's the first one that said it, it's attributed to him. Duty is ours, results are God's, is always something that we cannot keep too far away from us when it comes to parenting, is it not? See, the problem that we have, though, is we don't even want to do our duty. That's the problem. Duty is ours, results are God's. But it's easier just to sit back and say, well, you know, let's just let God do it. God can sing, God can do whatever. Well, wait a minute. I mean, he's called you to do duty. And you know, one of the most terrifying verses to me in all of Scripture is the one from Galatians. Be not deceived, God is not mocked. Now, if all we said was God is not mocked, whatsoever man sows, that shall he also reap. If that's all you ever said, then read the next verse or whatever. But whenever you see in the Bible, be not deceived, and then whatever happens next, you got to really kind of pay special attention to that. Be not deceived, God is not mocked. Whatever you sow, you will reap eventually. See, here's what we want. We want to drop the ball on the sowing, and then have God work everything out anyway on the reaping. And Paul says, don't be faked out by that. You're going to sow what you're going to reap, knowing that God is sovereign. And in a sense, I would have to argue that this whole chapter, what happened, is an outworking of God's sovereignty, if you will. Because God did raise up Abraham, and God did show us what happens with Lot, and God did, you know, we argue about God's sovereignty all the time, right? You know who would believe in the sovereignty of God? You know who might get it? That would be the residents of Sodom and Gomorrah with 1 minute to go. They might believe in the sovereignty of God at that moment. Thank you for your kind questions and responses and attention this morning.